with Stacey Abrams.
Yes, okay, now Stacey, you lost your gubernatorial campaign by only 55,000 people, and you actually could have gotten way more votes had it not been for the severe voter suppression in some parts of Georgia, which actually is what led you to develop the program Fair Fight Action. Talk to us about this. Tell us what you're doing and what you're working on.
So my election was marred by voter suppression. The Secretary of State purged more than 1.4 million people.
Wow.
214 precincts closed. African Americans faced lines of up to 4 hours. There were precincts that didn't have power cords for the machines. And the reality is, while this is so egregious and I think silenced the voices of thousands of Georgians, it's actually larger than Georgia. It happens across the country. We know that voter suppression has been the very strong intention of those who see themselves losing power as our nation becomes more diverse. And so my mission is through Fair Fight Action and Fair Fight 2020 to focus my energies on fighting back against voter suppression, but more importantly, expanding access to the right to vote. Because the choices we make and the changes we want to see only happen if we have the right to speak up.
That's right. You think voter suppression targets a specific group of people?
Absolutely. Now, let's remember, voter suppression has been a part of America since our inception. But most recently, in the last 20 years, it has really been the tool of the Republican Party targeting people of color, young people, and the poor. We know that in New Hampshire, students are being targeted with residency rules. We know down in Texas, you can vote with a gun license, but you can't vote with your student ID. And we know that across the country, people of color, especially black and brown communities, face more restrictions on where they can vote, how they can vote, and when they can vote.
Wow.
Can you give us some examples of voter suppression that you've heard of?
Yeah, so let's talk about in Kentucky, actually recently, 175,000 people were taken off of the voting rolls between April and August of 2019. Our group, Fair Fight Action, was on the ground. We worked with the state party. We got all 175,000 people put back on the rolls. Wow. And the governor won by 5,000. The new governor won by 5,000 votes.
5,000 votes.
So what can everyday people do to help make sure everyone gets a fair shot at voting?
We need to remember that America has made it more difficult to vote than almost any other industrialized nation. It shouldn't be this hard to take advantage of a fundamental right. I don't lose my Second Amendment right because I don't go shooting on Saturdays. But we can lose your right to vote if you don't use it. And so, one, make sure if you're registered that you stay on the roll, so double check it. But two, talk to your friends and family. Often people say, I don't vote because it doesn't matter. It matters. If you want the resources in your community, if you want the right to control your body, those are choices that get made. If you want criminal justice reform, the DAs matter, the judges matter. And so it's about having real conversations. But if you go to fairfightaction.com, we can tell you all about voter suppression. More importantly, we want people to just believe that they have the right to be heard in our country.
Another cause that is close to your heart is the 2020 census. Now, a lot of people think that, okay, this is just a bunch of statistics. Please tell us why you believe that it is so important.
Number one, it is the story of America. The census tells us who's here. That's why it has to include not just citizens, but everyone present. Number two, it's how we decide who has political power. The census happens once every 10 years, and if you don't get counted, you do not count. But most importantly, it's $1.3 trillion that are allocated to communities. If black people are undercounted in this next census, it will cost them $3 billion a year in our communities.
Wow.
For Latinos, it's about $4 billion. The expected undercount of Asians will cost about $590 million a year. Those are dollars that don't go to your classroom, they don't go to your hospital, you don't get affordable housing. It's real money, and it's money that doesn't just disappear. It goes to the people who already get enough. And so we have to be counted if we want to count.
Wow.
That is important.
You know what I wanted to always ask you? When you were running for governor, you got the backing of Oprah Winfrey. How cool was that?
It was so amazing. I was on the side. We were down in South Georgia. We had to pull over to the side of the road. I was like, look, Oprah's about to call. So Oprah called, and I'm like, you're Oprah. She's like, yes, I know. And I'm like, we need to pull over so we can stay where the signal was. The signal disappeared.
Don't lose that bar.
Seriously. I'm like leaning to the side, 30 degrees, just to make sure I stayed on the call, but she was extraordinary.
Yeah, she really championed for you.
Well deserved. And you know what, Stacey? Thank you so much for all of the work that you're doing for everybody in America. We appreciate it. For more information on Stacey's Fair Count and Fair Fight initiatives, check out TheReal.com.